Welcome to the Coffee with Karen podcast, a weekly chat show discussing everything from holistic health to current affairs from a mental, physical and spiritual perspective. Get your weekly cup of positivity with a sprinkling of woo-woo.
Way, welcome to the show. Today is Monday and this is going out on Mintwave Radio. So you can either ask Alexa or go and check it out on the website. Or if this is via podcast, again, you can go to the website, look at Podcast Network, and you can download the app for Android, for Apple. Today's episode is 136, and today we have John Kenny, relationship coach, and we're going to be talking about 6 things to understand in order to create a healthy, loving relationship. So I'm your host, Karen Roberts. We're just really looking out to help coaches and therapists get their message heard to the people who need it. So, John, welcome to the show.
Hello, Karen. Thank you for having me.
So, John really is an award-winning relationship coach to people who want to attract or create healthy, loving relationships. He's an author, he's a speaker, documentary maker, and host of the Relationship Guy podcast. So you've got a pretty impressive resume there. So can you share with the audience, first of all, a little bit more about your story? How did you come to be doing what you're doing right now?
So I've always been in some kind of service industry. I remember when I was probably 16, 17, I used to be in the sixth form and I'd sit in the corner with my little packed lunch and people would come and sit in the corner with me and tell me all about their problems. So I think there was a calling for this way back when. But as I said, I worked in the service industry. I've worked in retail. I was a PT. I was a firefighter. And then I went into therapy and went and trained as a counsellor back in 2004. And then in 2012, I met a coach and had some coaching. And they helped me to see that I was telling myself the same old story over and over again, and I wasn't changing my own kind of patterns in my own life. So even though I'd had therapy of my own for a couple of years, I kind of had a kind of deep understanding of myself and the problems I was experiencing, but I didn't really know how to change them. So that's when I decided to integrate coaching into my therapy. So my work now as a relationship coach, I have the experience of looking at past with people through the therapy training I've had. So I help people to understand the past, which is kind of what made the hugest difference to me, is that having that deep understanding of what happened in my life and who I was because of that, and then being able to make the changes that were necessary in order to let go of the things that weren't helping me any longer and to put new things into place to get the things I actually wanted in life, is now how I use that within my coaching to help people to create those relationships they're looking for. And the most significant thing that changed for me was relationships. It was the relationship myself, which was incredibly unhealthy, but also how I was relating to other people. And that was bringing a lot of difficulty, stress, destructive, toxic type relationships into my life. So being able to change those made the biggest difference to my own overall well-being. So that's why I decided to focus on relationship coaching.
I mean, it's all relationship, isn't it? I suppose with every issue, it's the relationship you have with, whether it's a relationship with your job, relationship with your partner, relationship with your parents, your kids. Yeah. I suppose that's what it is, isn't it?
Yeah. Everything that we have a relationship, like you said, we have a relationship with everything we do and everybody that we know and everybody that we don't know in some cases. But and if they're not good, you're not going to be in a good space yourself. And it's about just understanding how those are affecting you and then what you can do to make them better for yourself.
Right. And it's just, I think more and more people are coming to this understanding that so much of our, whether it's our, whatever you want to call it, our programming is coming from things that have happened way back when. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? That just, I don't know, it's almost like, for me personally, my perception used to be, well, you know, unless something really, really bad happened to you back then, you know, why is this going to affect you?
But
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it ain't necessarily so, is it?
No, it doesn't have to be anything massively traumatic. It's just a generally repetitive type messaging. and then you decide you perceive that in a certain way, and then you make up these stories in your head. I mean, as someone quoted before, you don't live in the outside world, you live in your own world, inside your own head. That's how we view the world. So everything that we process that goes through our heads, we've already got an idea a lot of the time about what that is, and then we put our own perceptions and meanings onto those types of things, and that's how we then act out. So yeah, it doesn't have to be traumatic, but it could just be that you made up your mind about something as a kid, and then maybe that message has been reinforced as you've got older, and now you carry something around with you which is completely wrong, unnecessary, and unhelpful.
There's so many things that aren't serving us. But I mean,
Mm.
what are the ages there? I mean, I've heard sort of, I think up to 7, isn't it? The
Yeah,
first.
usually 7 or 8. You're pretty much your brain's. So you're born into survival mode. So you need to survive. So everything you learn as a youngster is very, very important, and that's why
Yeah.
it sticks so much more. And even if it's not traumatic, it could be incredibly important because you're in survival mode. So you needed to learn this while you're learning to survive. So these things go in much more significantly than they would otherwise. And also your
Yeah.
brain waves are a lot slower. So you're in what your brain waves are called theta wave. So that's what we do when we're in meditation, when we're in hypnosis and things like that, is we slow our brain waves down so that we can absorb information much more quickly and much more deeply. And that's the kind of when our brain is in that state when we're kids, because again we need to learn a load of stuff really quickly. And so if we've had a difficult time as a child, or we've had certain things happen when we're kids, it's gone in at a really deep level, and your brain has said, I need to hold on to this information because it's going to take me through the rest of my life. And so therefore your brain is pretty much concreted in that space. A lot of that stuff is learned there, and then obviously our brain is constantly molding to situations. And if we get the same experiences come up, or our brain starts to see things in certain ways, then again that all that stuff gets reinforced. So we build more neurons in our brain which concrete all of this learning at a deeper level. And it's about then recognizing that we need to change the way that we see things. And although we can't get rid of those neurons because they're already in our heads, we can start to build new ones. Neuroplasticity is what that's called, in order to change what we're going to do moving forwards.
Right. And do you think anybody escapes unscathed? I mean, have you have you met anybody that has not had something that might not be serving them due to, anything? And again, nothing necessarily that you would consider that traumatic, just, I don't know, a
Mm.
conversation with a teacher when they were 6 or
Yeah, I
something.
think there are. I mean, I remember things. I can't remember what it was now because it wasn't. Obviously, I haven't held on to it.
So you
But
can't remember things.
I remember something the other day, and I thought, I remember that happening when I was whatever age I was, and I thought, why am I thinking about that? But it's clearly something for a reason that stuck with me at that time, and then it had come up in either conversation or something I was doing. And I thought, why is that there? I didn't think I'd even remember that, but clearly something around that experience was important for me enough to remember, because there's going to be millions of things that have happened in my life that I don't remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did actually meet someone not probably 2 or 3 years ago, and I was talking to them, and they were like, I don't have anything I need to concern myself with. There was nothing that I'm carrying from my past. And they were completely convinced. And again, I didn't have a long enough conversation with them to delve into it a little bit more. Because generally, when people do say that, if you talk to them for long enough, their tone will change fairly quickly, and they go, "Oh, there was that, and there was this." Because denial is a great feature that your brain throws in to the mix to try and stop you from remembering all the things you don't want to remember. But this person was completely convinced that they'd had this amazing kind of upbringing. They weren't really carrying any baggage, and I've just taken them on face value. They didn't seem to be in a really good place, so I wouldn't say that they were necessarily wrong about that. But majority of people I speak to that say, "Oh, there was nothing happened," once you've maybe had 2 or 3 conversations with them, especially with on the coaching front, then you start to question, okay, well, how did that affect you when that happened, or what do you believe about that because that happened? And oh, you know what? Actually, no, I do carry this because of that. So it's interesting that although we might not think a lot of the time we have got anything that influences us, if we look at it hard enough, again, if we need to look at it hard enough, I guess that's another thing I would say, because sometimes we just don't need to look at this stuff because it's not having a significant enough impact on us to warrant that.
No, but it could be unconscious though. That's
Yeah,
that's I suppose the difficult thing is how would people know if there is something
yeah, and that's
going
where I
on,
kind of
because it
come in.
might
I
be
mean,
unconscious.
yeah, again, that's what we do as coaches, right? We look at people and we help them to understand those little nuances of, okay, if that is impacting you in this way, you are doing this because of this. This is why this happened, and we need to be able to decide which bits we want to keep and which bits we don't want to keep, and what bits we want to change in order to make sure that we can move forward in a way that serves us the best.
And it is such a fascinating subject until, it's just such a shame that this stuff isn't taught in schools for starters, because just imagine a world we'd live in if everybody, once they got through those first few years of that stuff, so up to 7, 8 or
Mm.
whatever, and then learn about how some of those things could affect them before they left school, we'd live in a fantastic
Yeah,
world, wouldn't
I'm
we?
not sure if necessarily teaching it is the right thing, because I'm not sure that kids, I mean, no offense
Oh,
to kids, but I don't necessarily think they're cognitively or emotionally or
ready
whatever
for
aware
it.
enough, ready to take it all on board anyway. But I think it needs to
True.
be, I think it needs to be pointed out to them that this is possible, this is a possibility, at least just to put that seed into their mind that there are
Yes,
things.
at least before they leave school, surely.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, I mean, if like maybe secondary school from
Yeah.
in old money, I think that would be like first year secondary, which would be year 7. I
Oh, I know.
think.
I still get I still get confused.
You
My
know,
brain is still thinking in the way, we went to school. And I've
yeah,
had
most
two
definitely.
daughters still go through the new system, and I still couldn't get my head around it.
So what? How old are you then? And like when I got clients that are a bit younger, they go, "When I was in year this and year that," and I was like, "How old were you then?" Because I don't know that
Yeah.
terminology. I have to try and figure
Yes.
out. But yeah, I think it's definitely something that needs to be brought into the awareness of people, like children, at an earlier age, just so that they know when they're coming into adults and when they are starting to make different choices for themselves, they can actually reflect a little bit and go, "Okay, I remember that being taught that actually this may not be exactly what I it might seem to be, and I don't, and there are things that I'm recognizing very early in my life that I might be doing." There was a guy I had on my podcast last year, and he said he was about 14 or 15, and he actually on his own started to look at people and what they were doing and tried to understand why they were doing it. And he said it made such a huge significance to him trying to understand people, because he didn't go into himself. And I think that's what we do, we go into ourselves a lot and we interpret the world from inside rather than going, okay, why is that person doing what they're doing, and do I need to allow that to influence me? And it was a fascinating. He was so young when he just decided that he was going to take that route and stop making everything personal, and really developed himself as a young adult that was able to be really concrete in his own space and say, that's not my stuff, which is really an
Wow.
unusual thing for us to be able to do. I think I
That
was in
is
my
an
early,
old is
I
an
was,
old
I was in
soul.
my early 40s or something when I was doing that.
I'm still working on it. Well, today's topic: 6 things to understand in order to create a healthy, loving relationship. So,
Mm.
is this, okay, we're talking about different sort of relationships you can have there, but is your main focus really on helping people with their, significant others, or what is your focus these days?
Yeah, so this will all help in all relationships that you have. My work is mainly around helping people that have never found the right type of person to be with, always attracted the wrong type of person, and want to really understand why that's happening, why they've never been able to kind of create the relationship that they want. And in some cases, they're already in relationships which aren't particularly the way they'd like them to be. And it's sort of strategies around how they can change the dynamics of those relationships that they're already in, or if they necessarily want to be or need to be there moving forwards as well. But it is mostly around that intimate relationship that you have with somebody, although all the work that I would do with somebody, you can take that into all manner of relationships. But these 6 things are mostly geared towards an intimate type relationship. But as I said, you can look at some of these because they will relate to every other relationship that you're experiencing at the same time.
Cool. Okay. So, well, let's go through. Please be my
Yeah.
guest.
Okay, so the stuff I do, like I said earlier on, is based in the counselling and coaching that I do. So it's looking at these past things that have affected us and how they are subconsciously impacting on the decisions that we make around relationships. So the first thing is in our attraction style. So we have a tendency as kids to learn how to be in relationships, and then that can influence the kind of relationships that we are attracted to as we get older. So, for instance, I'll use myself as an example. I would always attract the type of people that would reflect how I saw myself. So, my ideas around me were that I was never good enough. So I would attract relationships which would prove to me that I was never good enough. So I'd always choose people that had very high expectations, wouldn't really put themselves out for me. If I did 100 things, 101st thing I did was wrong, and that's the thing that they would pick on. And so that would make me then feel really bad about myself, because I was looking to attract people to my life that would fulfill that idea of that I wasn't good enough. So I would attract people that had issues. So I would find that I would have a very instant attraction to somebody, and then obviously getting to know them, would realise they had maybe a traumatic childhood, had issues with around rejection or abandonment, and so they were quite needy and needed people to fulfil a space for them, which I would then try and step into. So I would try and fix them or make them feel better. And again, that sort of stuff came from my childhood, where my parents didn't have a particularly happy relationship. I was always trying to make everybody feel better, but it never worked because they weren't particularly happy being in a marriage together. And that's why they separated when I was 9, because they weren't happy in their marriage. But no matter what I tried to do, I then started to self-reflect on that. No matter what I do, I can't make people happy. So again, that kind of fed into this. I'm not good enough. I can't make people happy. And so I would attract the type of people into my life that would fulfill that idea. So understanding what our attraction style is will give us a good insight as to why we find certain people attractive, and in a lot of cases why we might get that kind of butterfly kind of gut instinct feeling when you meet someone that you feel instantly attracted to, that actually it might not be a healthy space for you to step into. And again, if it is a healthy space, then great. You might find you get the butterflies. I mean, I had a friend of mine who met someone at a party, said that's the person I'm going to marry. They got married, had kids and everything else, because he had a healthy attraction style. So he knew that person would meet, and he had a very healthy upbringing with his family too. So there was a link there to the fact that he had this very healthy upbringing. He was very clear on his idea of the kind of person that he wanted to have a relationship with. He told himself that most of his life, and when he met them at this party, he was like, that's the person I'm going to marry. Luckily enough, she was on the same wavelength, which again, generally we are. We vibrate at a very similar energy. So if I'm vibrating on an energy where I need someone to like me and I want to fix them, they're vibrating on an energy where they need to be fixed, or they believe they need someone to come in and fulfill that need for them. And so we resonate very well on the same sort of level. So yeah, it can be a healthy thing, but again, if it's holding you back and stopping you from finding the person that you're looking for, it's likely that you've got a quite a maladaptive attraction style going on.
So it seems crazy though, doesn't it? When you say it like that, it's like, well, hang on a minute. The one who got it right, they didn't have an issue. Why is it that we seem to be attracting? And I get it, because it works both ways, doesn't it? So like you say, because you were fulfilling that need, as it were, you were attracting somebody that was trying to fulfill their need, really.
Yeah.
But why? So hang on the positive, it works, but when it's on the negative, it's like the opposite. You get the opposite. It's weird.
So my friend didn't have any hang-ups that I had as a kid, because he grew up in a really healthy environment with his parents. I used to love going to his house because it was always fun and jolly and loving and caring and supportive. And I always felt like I wanted some of that. So and then again, he had this clear idea of what a healthy relationship needs to be. He didn't have any kind of maladaptive idea about what he needed to fulfill in somebody else. And so when he met the person that he met, he had a clear idea about the kind of healthy relationship that he wanted, what that looked like. And again, they met each other and attracted each other on that level. Whereas what I did was form these ideas about relationships that weren't healthy. And my role...
But that's all unconscious. See, that's my thing. It's almost like, so when you're very conscious about what it is you want, rather than it's the unconscious that's driving. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, he was still very unconscious. He just had very good experiences, very healthy experiences of a relationship. So he wasn't necessarily consciously going out there looking for somebody who met that criteria. He was just already on that vibration, on that level.
Right.
So that when he did see somebody, so he wouldn't look at the people that I looked at. We had completely different... We go out clubbing or whatever, we would never find the same people attractive, or maybe to look at, but not the energy they were giving off, because he was like going, oh no, I don't want to go anywhere near that, subconsciously, because that's not going to serve me, because that's not what I need.
And you were like, yeah.
And vice versa. Vice versa. When I met healthy people, as in that they were like secure, and I'll talk about something else in a second, but if they were like secure and healthy and, were confident and had a good idea about what they wouldn't hit my radar, and they would be interested in me. Sometimes maybe I'd be like, I'm not interested, because they wouldn't trigger that stuff inside of me. And also, if I did start to date them, it wouldn't feel right. So I would then quite quickly either self-destruct or walk away from the relationship, because I didn't know how to be in that healthy relationship space.
Right. So so somebody's in that. Somebody out there is listening and going, "Oh, that'll be me."
Yeah.
How do you change that then?
So with your attraction style, it's really uncovering what it is and noticing when. So again, my gut instinct would kind of mislead me. I'd find that I was instantly attracted to people, and if that ever happened after I became aware of it, I'd question that. I remember once there was a lady I met, and we were having a business meeting, and I basically just wanted to jump across the room and leap on her. And I thought that's a very strange reaction to have towards someone. And then as I sat back, I thought, I bet that's my attraction style being sort of triggered. And as again, I got to know them a little bit better and found out that they had terrible trauma with their parents as kids, losing both of their parents. And then when I realised it was my attraction style, I no longer found them attractive. When I thought, actually,
so being aware, so awareness is key.
Yeah. So when I thought,
then bringing it conscious.
Yeah. So I brought it into my consciousness. I thought, is this because they're attractive, or is this because something inside of my subconscious has been triggered? And then the next couple of times I saw them, I thought, I just don't find them attractive now. Whereas before, I'd have gone with that because I wasn't questioning it. And then after a certain amount of time, that would have then shifted, or it would become quite toxic or destructive in the space that we were kind of trying to have a relationship in. But it was that kind of, okay, let me question this. And then finding out a little bit more about them. Again, I found out about their trauma. I thought that was clearly something I was attracted to. And that's what made me realise, that kind of concreted to me, that that's the kind of person that I would genuinely look for, because that instant urge to want to have to jump off them, to put it blunt, was my brain saying, this is something that you're attracted to. Wow. Whereas actually, when I realised that what I was doing, I wasn't attracted to them at all.
Right. So that is, so that makes then a lot of sense why you need to figure it out first. What is that trigger?
Definitely. Yeah, most definitely. And again, what need it's meeting inside of you. So, it could, because it was making me feel that I wasn't good enough, because it was making me feel like a failure, because it was making me feel that I was never good enough for anybody. That's what my brain was making me go for all the time. And that's why I was attracted to these types of people, because it was a familiar experience.
Right. It's mad, isn't it? I mean, and it does affect us with everything throughout
Mm.
life. But you sort of get it that it was there, back in the day, hundreds of thousands of years ago, to protect humans,
Yes.
fear
Yeah.
and danger. But you would have thought that we would have come on a little bit and been able to sort of deal with this sort of funny aspect of our
Yeah.
minds. They are it's just quite a phenomenal thing that some things it serves us, but these days we're not running from saber-toothed tigers or
No. No. I was
and
actually
in other aspects with
yeah.
relationships it could completely muck us up.
Oh, completely, completely. I call it spiky and cotton wool situations. So in my instance, my brain was saying, "This is a spiky person, but this is what you know. So you know you're going to get hurt, but you know you're going to be all right. So go with that." And if there was
Yeah.
a cotton wool person who could give me all the love and affection and softness that I was looking for, my brain would go, "Yeah, but I don't know what that feels like." So I would avoid
Mm.
those. They wouldn't be on my radar of attraction because I didn't know what that felt like. And my brain was going, "Yeah, we don't know. We know this, so we do this.
Yeah.
We know what it's going to be like. So let's do this." So
Even though we know it's not going to end well,
know it's spiky and it's going to hurt
it's
me.
still going to go there.
Yeah, I'm still going to do it. And again, I would avoid all the cotton wool stuff because it wasn't something my brain was used to.
Yes. It's
I was
yeah,
talking.
it's funny
You
how
say
we
about
work.
other areas of your life. I was actually talking to someone this morning about work. So when I first started as self-employed, I would attract a lot of people that I was working with that wouldn't follow through with what they promised me that they were going to do. And that again was my attraction style. I was used to being let down as a child because the things that I was told were going to happen wouldn't happen. And so therefore I would, as an adult, I started to attract a lot more relationships in business where people would tell me they would do things and they wouldn't do it. And again, I was attracting them into my life because I didn't believe that
Mm.
anybody was ever going to follow through with what they said they were going to do. And when we talk about love languages, words of affirmation as one of the love languages, the primary love language that we have is my bottom of my list because I don't believe necessarily anything that anybody says on
Right.
face value. They have
No,
to show me,
I get that. Yeah.
yeah, they have to show me in a different way for me to be okay with the fact that this is someone I can trust, this is someone I can connect with, this is someone I can have a relationship with. So my main love language is to do things for me. If someone
Right.
makes time
So
for someone, so there's five. There's words of affirmation, physical touch, people making time, people buying you things, and people doing things for you. And my mate, so we all have a mixture. So if someone tells me they love
mhm.
me, then I'm going to hear it, but I won't necessarily believe it unless it comes with something else. So if they're giving me a
Right.
hug at the same time and they've made a special journey to come and see me, then I might
Mhm.
believe the words they say because they're actually doing more than one of the love languages that makes me feel okay, this is genuine. But generally, if people acts of service, so if people do things for me and they follow through with the things they're going to do, I actually feel like someone cares, and I find that sometimes really difficult to accept, and it makes me a little bit emotional just talking about it now because it triggers something really deep inside of me that I didn't experience as a kid, and that's what I was really longing for as a child. So that's when I can
Wow.
tell like, this means the most to me because I can really feel it. Whereas someone will say something to me and I won't really register because I don't feel that it's genuine or true or it's ever going to happen.
Okay.
So figuring out what your going off topic a little bit, figuring out what your love language is quite also
Right. So the
important.
first one was figuring out what your trigger was. The next one's figuring out which love language
Yeah, which
is
is
the
nothing
most
to do with
important one for
which is
you.
nothing to do with the six of things that I'm going to talk
Oh,
about,
okay. Sorry.
but it's still a great thing to know. The second
Cool.
one of the six, if you want to talk about that, is the attachment style. So our attachment style is something we develop in very early childhood, and we can either have a secure or an insecure attachment style. It's something that's been proposed since about the 1950s, and what they noticed in kids when they were toddlers and babies even was that if we create a secure bond with our primary caregivers as kids, we generally then have a secure bond in relationships as adults. As I was saying about my friend earlier on, he grew up in a healthy environment, so he grew up with a secure attachment. I grew up in a fairly unhealthy environment, so I grew up with an insecure attachment. So my insecure attachment was what's called a fearful avoidant, and there's two types of avoidant attachment. There's fearful and dismissive. So as a fearful person, I would full on at the start of a relationship because I really want to connect with someone. I really want to be loved. I really want to be with somebody. And then the relationship gets to a certain level and then defenses kick in, resistance kicks in. And my brain says, oh, this is too much now. And I start to avoid that relationship because I don't know how to be in a space for too long, which is lovely and fluffy and full of romance. Whereas a dismissive avoidant is someone who is so fearful of being in a relationship, they just dismiss the idea of it altogether. So they have a lot of friends with benefits type relationships, a lot of relationships that are very surface level, because to consider connecting with someone at a deeper level to them is just too uncomfortable. So you might see them a few times or whatever, and then all of a sudden they'll disappear, or they'll just not really be interested to see you anymore, or you'll just never get much out of them because they're too avoidant of being connected to somebody.
Right.
So with the fearful type one, which is the one I was, you might get someone that does a lot of love bombing because they're really in it to start with. So they want to really get you to like them again, because this is all based in massive insecurity. They really want to connect with you, but they also really want you to like them. So they might do lots of things to try and get you to like them. And then they'll just sort of eventually they'll just switch off and you sort of think, why are they ghosting me now? It's because they've reached a point where they need to back off.
Yeah.
And when it comes again to
that one.
when it comes to what we attract, is they then go quite nicely with the next type of insecure attachment, which is an anxious attachment. Generally, as kids, rather than avoid the difficult situations they were going through, they were needy, clingy, screamy, try to get the attention that they were missing by acting out in a certain way. And again, they would have a tendency to do that in adult relationships as well. So once they have their barriers sort of drop down, and someone, especially with a fearful avoidant, if they've given them loads and loads of really nice stuff for a certain amount of time, they then might start trusting this person. And then when that person starts to withdraw from them, they'll chase, they'll become clingy, needy, they'll become very anxious. As they start to have feelings for someone, it triggers anxiety, basically. So they will start to maybe check on people a lot, want to know where you are all the time, because they feel very insecure caring about you. And it's very interesting. A lot of my clients, and they say, at the beginning of the relationship, I didn't really care. And I say, well, that's probably because you've got an anxious attachment type. Did you start to struggle when you started to like them and started to have feelings for them? And I go, yeah. And I guess that's because you were triggered. Your insecurities from your childhood were triggered because you actually started to care about this person. So it's something to be really mindful of, that if you have an attachment style which is insecure, you are going to find it very difficult to maintain a healthy relationship space, and you're very likely to keep choosing similar types of relationships over and over again because they meet your attachment style. The last type is called a disorganized style, which is a mixture of an anxious and an avoidant. And that's the least common. It comes from mostly some kind of trauma in childhood. So it's where you are so confused about relationships when you start to care about someone that you anxiously avoid things. maybe your father would abuse your mother. So the person that you're supposed to love and is supposed to love you and is supposed to make you feel safe and secure, you also see that the fact that they can cause harm to someone else. So therefore, how you are with them becomes very disorganized. I love this person, they love me, but I can also see they can be very harmful and abusive to someone else. And therefore that completely complicates how
it's just amazing how much fear, because that's really what I've heard from you there is just different types of fear, all fear, sort of acting out slightly differently in each scenario. Well, you've responded in that way to overcome that feeling of fear, and that one's gone that way. A bit like, I read the book, it's a fiction, Celestine Prophecy.
Oh
Was it the
yes, yeah.
Celestine
I read
Prophecy?
that. Yeah, I read that many
So
years
a
ago.
bit like about how our energy, we dominate, or are you aloof versus interrogate? And it's just a little bit when you step out of it. And look, don't get me wrong, I can recognise myself in a couple of those things. Bit of this, bit of that.
Yeah,
But it's just madness when you can step back and look at in. So you think, oh, right, I was doing that because of that,
mm,
or because of fear.
yeah.
Why? Why are we not more positively led rather than we seem to be more fear led?
Because, as you said earlier on, there were tigers in the bushes when we were young, when we were evolving as human beings. So fear is more powerful than gain. So most people are away from people, as they say in NLP, than they are towards people. Most people run to avoid pain rather than run to gain pleasure, because it's
Mm,
or driven instinct within human beings to be fearful and to avoid pain. So we do whatever we can to avoid pain than we will ever do to run towards pleasure. So if we're not sure which is which, and our brain is very negatively biased because of that, so it will make a negative choice based on what we believe is going to be the outcome. So we need to decide it as adults that actually we need to make choices, make different choices. We don't necessarily need to avoid pain, because
no.
avoiding
Yeah, we
pain,
don't have to run these automatic.
no, because it's not always going to hurt us the way we think it might. And as adults we can say, okay, well, I've always got through this, so therefore I know I can get through. So if I want to fall in love with somebody and I know it could come to an end, then that's okay, because I'd much rather experience the idea of loving somebody and being connected with somebody and worry about whether it's going to come to an end or not. And if it does come to an end, it might hurt for a while, but I'll be all right.
You'll get over it.
Whereas our brain is telling us, no, this is too much. You need to now do something about it. And so that's why you said we need to be really conscious. But fear is so much more, again, as kids in survival mode, what would cause us pain, what would create fear within us, was much more powerful. And our brain would say, I'm going to remember this because this. Whereas the pleasurable stuff that we had as kids, we probably don't have many memories of that at all.
It's terrible, that is, isn't it? It just seems to be, because you're right. You remember, seem to remember the terrible things more so than,
and
God,
much more powerfully as well. So if you remember something you really enjoyed, generally the level of emotion that you're going to get is much less than if you remember something you didn't enjoy.
yeah.
So your brain will go back into that painful moment and re-experience that emotion, because it's trying to remind you of it to keep you from doing it again. Whereas the pleasurable stuff, it's not going to raise too much of an emotional response, even though you knew you enjoyed it, because your brain doesn't need to hold on to that information as much as it does the other one.
Man, we got it the wrong way round. We need to focus on the positive. We need to remember the better things, don't we? So we can have more of them.
We do.
We're
and also,
funny creatures, aren't we?
The fear stuff as well. Yeah, we are. But again, that's how we evolved. If we didn't do that, we would never evolved as a species.
True. But now we've figured it out.
All the time when it all died.
It's like, can we sort it out now, please? What's going on? So hang on, I'm lost. How many? Where are we now? That was number 3.
This is number 2. Sorry, that was number 2. This is number 3.
Oh, right, we're only on number 3. My goodness.
Relationships. So we all have beliefs about everything. So what we would believe in God or whatever that might be, and we also have beliefs about relationships. So if we believe that all relationships cause you pain, that they're unreliable, that no one's ever going to love you long enough, or whatever it is, then you're always going to try and make your beliefs your reality. So they are your truths, essentially. So if they don't exist in your life, so if I had a relationship with somebody and I believe what I just said, that relationships are unreliable, that no one's ever really going to love me, then there's always going to be pain. My belief is always going to manifest. Because even if it doesn't exist, I will make it exist, because I need it to exist, because it's my truth. And if it doesn't exist, my brain gets really uncomfortable and says, okay, we now need to do something to create the belief that you believe it. And so, again, if I've got healthy relationship beliefs, I'll manifest healthy relationships. And if I haven't got healthy relationship beliefs, I have a tendency to manifest unhealthy relationships. And if I do manifest a healthy relationship and my brain, and I'm not conscious, then my subconscious belief will take over and I will then destroy that relationship to fit with my belief system. So we need to be mindful of what our beliefs are that we carry, and then we can put healthy beliefs in if we don't have healthy beliefs to create the relationships that we want.
Because then again, I suppose, this is all the auto response, and until you can look at it, then you can change it and go, really? Was that because of that?
Yeah, exactly. I did that because...
Yeah, but isn't that always the case when you look at everything? It's like, oh, that was me getting in my own way.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a lot of things that we don't have control over, and then the world outside of us. What I say is the only way to be in control is to let go of control.
But isn't there one thing we've learned in the last few years, is that we were never in control anyway?
Yeah,
that was
the
just
only
a
thing
myth.
we control is what goes on in our heads, because that's the only thing we can master. And then that, if we can master what goes on in our heads, then we can master our outcomes. Because if we can manifest the stuff that we're really looking for. So it's important, and I'm going to come on to that a little bit more when we talk about one of the other things on my list.
Sorry.
That's okay. So relational patterns is the next thing we need to look at. So we all have generally patterns we like to follow in life. We'll do some things the same over and over again because, again, we're comfortable in that space. Your brain doesn't really like change. So it has a tendency to want to do what it knows all the time. Again, one of my sayings is the only thing that's constant in life is change. So we need to become comfortable with change. But if we have built a relational pattern, so we choose the same types of people over and over again, then that can lead us to never creating the relationship that we actually want, or attracting the relationship we want, because we'll keep repeating the same types of patterns, because our brain says, oh, if that's not good for me, if that's unhealthy, that's okay, because that's what I'm used to. And again, it feeds the other things like beliefs and stuff as well, because we are choosing the same types of patterns to follow. So if you recognize that you've got a certain relationship pattern, maybe they always end the same, there's always the same type of person, you find yourself in very similar circumstances, it's really important that you address that if it's not serving you, to create the one you want.
Wow.
Again, as I said earlier on, a lot of these things play out in other areas of our life. You might have a work pattern that you do as well. There are other things that we do that can cause us to follow different types of patterns.
We could just get stuck in little cycles.
Yeah, it's generally like when someone says, oh, this is just who I am, or this is me, or this always happens. If that's the kind of things that you hear or see or do yourself, it's generally because we're stuck in some kind of pattern and we're not consciously aware of the idea that we can change them.
But what you're saying is you can.
You can. Yes.
You can.
Yeah. Everything can be changed. I mentioned the word resistance earlier on. This is the next bit. Because we're so used to doing things a certain way, because we're so comfortable with doing things a certain way, our brain can resist because it loves the familiar. So it's really important that we recognise that when we do try and put changes into place, that there can be a certain amount of resistance to take us back to what we're used to. I had a client a couple of years ago who did exactly that. She finished her sessions and then about 3 or 4 months later was on the phone in tears saying, I've ruined everything. I've got this relationship and I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and everything I ever learned has all gone down the pan and everything like that. And I said, that's okay. I said, that's just your resistance kicking in. You're trying to go back to as you were before, and now it's really important that you focus on everything we've ever done together as in the coaching and the things you're putting into practice in your life at the moment, and just be concrete in those things and keep telling yourself that this is okay. Kind of placate your brain, tell it it's all right, this change is all right, we're doing well, this is what we want, and just to keep on those things. And a couple of months later she was back on track and everything was good. But it took her a little while
Right.
to overcome the resistance that her brain was trying to take her back to everything she'd ever done before, because it felt really uncomfortable being of that space.
There you go. Another sort of reminder of just, the comfort zone's not a great place to be, but you've got to work through. You've got to work through it. But
Yeah.
well, at least she had you so she really could have easily just split it
Yeah,
back,
if she hadn't
right?
reached out to me, she could have
Yeah.
just sat there and just sort of self-destructed like she was trying to do. Again, really, really hard. One of the really bigger issues was the kind of how she spoke to herself and how she would berate herself and put herself down. And again, that's what she was. A lot of the stuff she was saying, "Oh, this isn't working. I'm rubbish," and all that kind of stuff. And then that was
Mm,
really making her feel like she wasn't going to kind of come through the other side. But again, just
wow.
consciously being aware of how she was talking to herself, how she was being, and what her brain was trying to do, helped to just to go, okay, no, this is fine. I'm all right now. I can move through this. It's going to be a little bit uncomfortable, but I'm all right. And it just took her a few weeks of kind of going back into the work we'd done previously to allow her to move through it. And I haven't heard from her again, so I'm hoping it's
That's a good thing.
I'm hoping that's a good thing.
That's a good thing.
Mm.
So you're empowering people to basically break their, if they've got bad patterns, to break
Mm.
their patterns so that they can go and live the
Yeah.
life that they want.
And no, it's okay when resistance comes up. It's just resistance. It's just your brain saying, I'm not really sure about this. Please tell me
Mm,
it's okay. And again, so we come into the idea of kind of self-soothing and things like that. This is okay. I mean, yeah, we're going to be all right. But if our brain's saying this is not okay, we're not going to be okay. This is taking me into a space that I'm really fearful of, or this is going to cause me some sort of pain, or I'm just unused to it. Then if we keep listening to that, we're going to keep slipping back into what we've always done,
right.
which
Our
then brings
bodies are lazy, aren't they? They just want,
yeah, your brain likes the path of least resistance. It likes the
yeah.
familiar, so it will do everything it possibly can to take that
Even though
path.
if there was just a button, we could go, no, but I want this, and
Yeah,
just have a flip of the switch and go, you're not going
which
back that way.
superbly brings us on to the next bit, which is
Way.
our want and give lists. So we need to know what we want in a relationship. If we don't know what we want, it's really hard to aim for it. Most of us carry around a don't want list. So when I ask my clients what they want in a relationship, generally they'll reel off, well, I don't want this, I don't want that, I don't want, and I've had enough of this and this person, and I don't want to meet anyone like that again. And I say, okay, so why are you focused on everything you don't want? Because as we probably know, where your focus goes, your energy flows. And
Mm,
if I go to the park avoiding to treading dog poo, all I'm looking for is dog poo.
yep.
And again, so we need to be focusing on what we want in a relationship. I know there's a lot of stuff that goes on around now about kind of entitled type people thinking they can just have whatever they want and setting their sights really high. I think we need to find a balance there. And when I talk about a want list, I'm talking about the fundamental things like, do we have the same values, principles, want the same things in life? Are we similar personality types, but also have a very kind of independent way of kind of being ourselves as well? Which is again something I'm going to talk about in a second. But yeah, so it's all about what kind of person do I want to be with. We can then start to set our sights on creating that type of idea of that person and then focusing on that. And then we have part of our brain called your reticular activating system, which is your RAS, which kind of is I'm going to go and look for things that you want in your life. So if I said, when you go out next time, look for as many red cars as possible, you'll see loads of red cars because you're actually
Mm,
focusing on looking for red cars, which you wouldn't see otherwise. But you would also notice them when you weren't looking because you'd switched on the part of your brain which looks for
yeah.
what you want. And also that brain is what's called selective filtering. So it filters out the things you're not looking for, the things you don't need to remember. So it looks for what you want and it also gets rid of the things you don't want. So therefore, the person
Mm,
you're actually looking for, subconsciously when you're out and about, your brain will go, oh, that's the person. There's a person over there that's got all the things that you're looking
that
for,
fix that.
and fits that
So
idea of
that's
what.
why you got to be so specific rather than just vague, and it can't be just superficial rubbish
Yeah, and
of
I
a
wouldn't say. I mean,
certain look or a height or a.
yeah, exactly. Or whether they like. I mean, liking the same music and liking movies and stuff is good, but it's not a fundamental thing that's going to make or break a relationship necessarily. So it's kind of the deeper stuff that you want in somebody rather than the things you don't want. And then another thing is again something to do with the resistance and all the other kind of things that we talked about, especially your attachment, is what you want to give to a relationship. So we can't expect somebody to give us loads of stuff in a relationship if we're not prepared to give it ourselves. But there can be things within us which need that. We need someone to give it before we'll reciprocate.
Right.
Or we'll
Is
reach
that not fear? Is that not coming from fear?
Yeah, we'll come back to fear again. But there's also that kind of thing about reciprocating too. So again, I need to be comfortable.
5 love languages, or whatever you
Yeah, but I need to be comfortable with what I give. So if I'm not going to give of myself to a relationship, again, I'm not going to connect. So I might again attract the wrong type of person. So if I'm very guarded and trying to keep myself safe and secure all the time, I'm likely to attract someone that's going to want to knock those barriers down, or someone that likes a challenge type thing. Whereas if I'm a bit more open with the idea of giving in a relationship, I'm likely to find someone who likes to do that too. So they're not going to see me as hard work. They're not going to be attracted to me because I'm hard work. They're going to be attracted to me because I'm open and vulnerable and prepared to give of myself to a relationship. But I also need to do that to overcome my fear. So if I can tell myself I'm okay with the idea of connecting, and if I connect and it hurts, then that's okay, but I want to experience that type of relationship, then when it happens, I've already kind of preempted that and pre-warned my brain that I'm going to go for it regardless of what it tries to tell me to do, because I'm comfortable in doing that. I'm comfortable being vulnerable. There is an idea of, this is who I am, this is how open I am with you. Again, obviously we don't do that at the start of a relationship, because that would be a major red flag. But as relationships,
again, balance, like you said earlier.
Yeah. If someone tries to throw all of this vulnerability at you at the start, then they run. And if you're doing that as well, I mean, I used to go out with girls on dates, and I used to tell them all about my tragic childhood, because I was looking for sympathy. I was looking for someone to feel sorry for me, and I was looking for that acceptance. And then I think they didn't kind of call me whiny, but they kind of intimated that I was a bit whiny. And I thought, and then when I started to do this work on myself, I thought, why would I do that? Why would I be whiny? What was I looking for? And actually, I was looking to be accepted and validated for all of my trauma and everything else I'd ever been through. And it was my way of trying to get someone in to like me, rather than just being myself. I was telling them all the woe stories to get them to see me in a certain way. And then when I realised I was doing that, I was able to go, I'm not going to do that anymore. And I stopped.
Right. So it's been really, really being honest with yourself and looking at and questioning yourself as to
which ideally
what was I doing there?
We've actually had 6, but there's a sneaky number 7.
Oh, go on.
And that sneaky number 7 is what you just said. It's that relationship with yourself. Because if you don't have a good relationship or a healthy relationship with yourself, you're very unlikely to attract a healthy relationship towards you, because you're going to manifest how you see yourself a lot of the time. If you're judgmental of yourself, you're probably going to pick someone who's judgy. If they're not judgy, you're not going to listen to them. Again, so to get all of this in the right place, you need to look at yourself and say, okay, how do I see myself? What kind of relation do I like myself? I remember I was in my 20s and I won a raffle. I was in Spain and I won a raffle, and I got up on stage to collect my raffle prize, and the guy said, "What's your name?" And I said, "John." And I went bright red. I thought because there was like 300 or so people in the room and I was a bit drunk, that I just got a bit embarrassed. But actually, it was because just saying my name embarrassed me, because I didn't like who I was. I had a really unhealthy relationship with myself. I was massively insecure, and that then led to me keeping these kind of relationships going that I was always choosing were ones that fitted my idea of how I saw myself. So I didn't think I was lovable. I try and sell myself to somebody to get them to love me, but it wasn't really who I was, and they were never really going to love me because I wasn't loving myself, and I wasn't showing them a side of myself that was authentic or genuine.
That's where it all comes from. It started. So how did you deal with that? Is that through all the different tools that you've got in your toolbox that can help people, like NLP and other stuff? Is that how you?
Yeah, I check in with myself a lot about how I talk to myself, whether what I'm doing, what I'm not doing. Am I self-sabotaging? As I've got a massive history of self-sabotaging behaviours. I remember I used to run for Great Britain when I was in my late teens and early 20s. And I'd go down on the blocks because I was a sprinter, and I'd be singing a song in my head. rather than focusing on the race, because I didn't believe I was good enough. I didn't believe I deserved to be there. I had a bit of imposter syndrome. And when it was on the bigger stages, I would always, 99% of the time, fluff it up because I didn't believe I deserved to be in that space. And so I wasn't able to really do the focus that I needed to focus on in order to achieve what I could have achieved. And so again, in relationships, I would do exactly.
It's just so interesting how it can all play out in different aspects of your lives.
Yeah.
No, so how do the listeners get hold of you, John? Because I could talk to you for ages. It's quite a fascinating subject.
It is.
How do they get in contact? What's your website?
The website's johnkennycoaching.com. Kenny spelled Kenny. There's you can get a free consultation if you want to talk to me about what you're going through and whether you think coaching is a good thing for you to embark upon. I have a program which offers this as well. So if you just want to look at these certain things, you can do it yourself with my online program, or you can choose the online option, which works with me as well. So we do 1 week of the video, 1 week of coaching, 1 week video, 1 week coaching, and we do that for 10 weeks. So if you want to reach out and just have a chat about what might be best for you, if you're looking to change this area of your life, then just go to the website and get in touch. We can have a chat.
Fantastic. So johnkennycoaching.com. Yeah?
That's it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today. Really interesting. And to everybody else, I will be back tomorrow then with a Coffee with Karen. Bye for now.
Coffee with Karen podcast, a weekly chat show discussing everything from holistic health to current affairs from a mental, physical and spiritual perspective. Get your weekly cup of positivity with a sprinkling of woo-woo.